The 20th century and early 21st century have been a period of monumental change and transformation. And in Europe, at least, few cities embody that more than Berlin. I've just returned from visiting Berlin for the umpteenth time, and standing there, walking around the city, seeing the changes that have occurred over the years that I have been visiting. I first visited literally as the wall was coming down in 1989. It has been a fantastic experience. And as someone who writes about Berlin, particularly in the 1920s, around 100 years ago, I just wanted to take a few of these posts to talk about those changes and the things that you can still see there. And I want to start with what to me is one of the most important locations in Berlin, Alexanderplatz. My name is Jason Collings, and I write the Alaric Mysteries, which are set predominantly in Berlin during the 1920s. Alexanderplatz, if for those who don't know, is a square in the middle of Berlin. It used to be outside the Eastern Gate, the George Gate of Old Berlin. It is now very much at the centre of the city, and it has been instrumental in so many of the changes and the political events of the last century or more, from the revolution of 1918, through the Spartacist revolt and its aftermath, through the Cold War, to the protests of 1989 and events beyond. If you stand there today, it's very easy to look around at all the glass and the concrete and the steel and think this is completely changed. And certainly if you're looking at a photograph of Alexanderplatz in the 1920s, it's hard to pick out what there is. After all, most of the city, particularly the east of the city, was entirely annihilated by the bombing campaign and the conflict of the Second World War. However, if you look carefully, you can still pick out the shape of how things were. And let me help with that. Let's start with the U-Bahn. The Alexanderplatz station, U-Bahn and S-Bahn, but particularly the U-Bahn, because it's the largest U-Bahn station in Berlin, are a fixed point. They remain in the same place and roughly on the same scale as they did in the 1920s and 30s. And with them comes the viaduct that runs north and south carrying the S-Bahn line. That also is the same. So let us use that as our start point and our axis. From there, if you're just bearing slightly north, you will find that there is a department store there today. There was a department store in the 1920s, a very, very famous one, Hermann Tietz & Co. And that was one of the grandest department stores in Berlin. And Alexanderplatz itself, then as today, was surrounded by department stores, by shops. It was one of the big shopping centres for the city. It didn't have the glamour of Fürstendamm or even a Friedrichstrasse, but it had big shopping. Then in the centre of Alexanderplatz, there was an icon. There is today, there was then. It is just that it has changed and it's moved slightly. In the 1920s, it was the Berliner, the statue of the female figure, the embodiment of Berlin. It was lost during the Second World War, probably melted down for arms. It has been replaced today by the world clock, which sits a little further south than where the Berliner did. Then, if you continue south, avoiding the tram lines and the trams that run back and forth in between, you will find today there is a large shopping centre, the Alexa, which is a dark red colour. That isn't by accident. That isn't some strange aesthetic choice. It is a nod to the building that once stood on the same site, the Red Castle, Police Presidium, the headquarters of the Berlin police, and a location that comes up many times in the books I write. And so today you can stand in Alexanderplatz and still feel the 1920s just about there. You can pick out the pieces. You can look around at the shops, the big department stores that are there today, and go, they were still there before. They just had different names and maybe they were selling different goods, but they were there before. There was a grand centerpiece. It's just now it's a clock. Then it was a statue of an embodiment of the city. The S-Bahn was there, running north and south along the viaduct. The U-Bahn was there, and there was a great red building to the south. It's just the nature of the buildings have somewhat changed. I hope you found this interesting. If you did, please subscribe for more. Thanks very much for listening.